I'll have to leave it.
What's up, fellas? Welcome back to another Angler's Prescription. Um, Man, we're just gonna jump right into it today. Shane's got a big basketball tournament to go watch his son play in against a rival, so he's gonna be
Yep.
leaving us a little early tonight. But we got Matt Mandu, Mr. Matt Guthrie. You all know him. Yeah, dude, we're gonna talk a little fishing, a lot of fishing. See what he's been up to. He's been on the water, smacking some big fish lately, and putting a hurting on some. So, but yeah, guys, I want to thank you for coming on. Don't forget, the show is brought to you by Headwaters Venture Company. Guys, if you are looking for a new ride, Matt can tell you all about it and where to go. And P line and hook. So, you guys, we're still gonna get the discount code for you guys for P line. Bear with me, P line first gen, and Hooked 44, all capitals, HOOKD 44 for your 10% off on hookedforlife.com. But yeah, Matt, what's going on, bud?
Not much. I've moved back down from the Reading area, which is where one of the Headwaters Adventures is. They've also got the other one over in Rancho Cordova. So if you need a kayak, go check them out. I know they've got some deals on some of the last year's. I think they are the Old Towns and the Hobies. So if you're looking for a good boat, check them out. But since I've been back down in Sac, I've been doing a lot of pretty much only delta fishing. The only place I put my kayak in because I'm not willing to paddle very far. But it's been good. Last year, I had so many fish over 5 pounds, I lost count. It was a very, very good year for me.
Nice, nice.
Nice.
So you've been to the Delta and you're still catching them. It's middle of January. What are you looking for, and what are you throwing right now? Don't give out any specific spots, but what are you keying in on?
The big thing, which I'm sure it all depends where you go, but what I've been fishing has been grass lines. A lot of the grass has died off, and so you have a lot of clumps out there still. And so those deeper clumps in, say, 5-ish feet of water to 8 feet of water, that's what I've been doing most of my damage with. And this year already, I've got a 6 something. I think it was a 613 and a 7-8 out there in the Delta. And one was on a spinnerbait and one was on a chatterbait. And then I've had a lot of good fish besides, but I'm pretty consistently getting 2-pound plus fish, and 99% of the time it's that chatterbait. That was my go-to almost all of last year, besides some bigger fish on flipping. Almost all of my big fish were on chatterbait, and it's been fun. It's been super fun.
Nice.
Is that slow rolling the chatterbait, or like what's your favorite way of throwing that?
So when it was warmer out, I'm fishing it fast. Like 90% of the time, I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce, just because that I can snap it through the grass really easily, and it clears the grass a lot easier. If you get it on your bait and you snap it real hard, that little bit heavier weight is going to rip through the grass, and you can keep fishing it. On the 3/8 ounce, which I'm doing a little bit more now, slow rolling it, it doesn't clear the reeds as good. So if you get some on your hook and you're trying to snap it, a lot of the times it doesn't come off. Especially some of that dead draped heavier grass. But honestly, if I can get by with the 1/2, I will do it. And what I've noticed, I'm doing 2 things with that. Either I'll throw the 1/2 to cover water faster just to get bit, and a lot of them are missing it or short striking it, or I'm just not getting a good hook in them. And so I've had the opportunity where I've gotten bit, and I'll pick up that spinnerbait and I'll slow roll the spinnerbait through there and pick up a fish. Or I've been playing with the 3/8. I don't, when I say I don't like it, the only reason I don't like it is because it doesn't clear the grass as much and you kind of waste some of your casts, and it doesn't get as deep. So with those, I like the jackhammer. The standard one works great too. It's just a little bit lighter hook. So if you're looking for anything over 5 pounds, be cautious. But the jackhammer in the 1/2 is my favorite. The 3/8, I'm just slow rolling through the top of the grass. With the 1/2, I really snap it hard. With the 3/8, because you're slow rolling it, you could kind of lift it over the grass piles, and you're not pulling it away from them as quickly, and they're getting the hook really good, even in this cold water. I mean, last week is when I got my 7-pounder. I had a I think my bag, for my best 5 that day was 1810.
Wow.
Yeah, I had one that was just under 4. I had a couple of 2-pounders. I had the 7. I must have had one other one around 3, but it was really good. And the strange thing is, the bigger ones feel like when you're fishing that chatterbait and it's down past a clump of grass, you could feel the weight that you're coming up to grass. And so you kind of lift, especially with the 3/8, I'll just lift it over instead of snap it through. And I would start lifting it over, and I'm reeling down, and all of a sudden it's like it feels like I'm still in the clump and my line's going sideways. And that's how the 2 bigger ones were, the 7 and the 4-pounder. But they're not crushing it; they're just eating it good. And like I said, it's been fun. I'm searching for my double digits before I go back up north, and I think it's going to happen out in the Delta, especially coming up on pre-spawn. The other thing I've been getting some fish on too, kind of the same idea, targeting those grass clumps, lipless. I've started getting a few on lipless. I don't think it's good yet, but you could generate that reaction bite, and I've caught a few. I had one jump out right at the side of the boat, out of the water for that lipless, and missed it. So if you could get them to, react, they will eat it. Right now, everything I'm throwing has been white. I went out today with my dad, and the water's cleared up. The place where I was fishing with dirtier water last week, we had probably 5 foot of visibility. So it changed drastically a week. Yeah. So I might start changing my colors up, but like for last year, it was kind of green pumpkin stuff that looks like bluegill and crawdads up till just after the spawn. And then post spawn, I went to white, and I threw that white from probably April or May to now. I'm still throwing that white, and it's just stark white. I really, really like the Z-Man Z-Craw Jr. is my go-to trailer. And that's kind of dirtier water. As it clears up, I might change those things around. Or as we start getting into pre-spawn, there's a handful of different trailers that I really like. But if I had to pick one, it's that Z-Craw Jr. It's awesome. And you could throw it by itself like Texas rig. You could throw it on the back of a swim jig. You could throw it on the back of your chatterbait. You could punch it. Like, it's just an awesome bait. Highly recommend.
Nice. I know when you're up north, you did a lot of trout. You did a lot of multi-species stuff. What else? I know you're chasing a little bit of striper now too. What are you getting those on?
Striper, all but a few are coming on an A-rig, which I'm a little surprised. Only saying that is I usually pick them up on the chatterbait. I've caught a couple on a spinnerbait. I've caught a couple on small swim baits, but consistently A-rig. I caught 2 today. I got about an 8-pounder and a 6-pounder today out in the Delta throwing that A-rig. And they were both in the same spot. And so you're throwing it, nothing. You catch one, you catch another, and then that was it. But the A-rig, and they seem to be keying in on smaller bait. Because I was lazy last week, and I think there were 3.8s on the back. And then as they got tore up, I started putting 4.8 in the straight white pearl, or actually, what color is it? I got them right here. The slight blue ghost. So I started throwing the 4.8s, and I had them, I think it was one of the side ones, but they were still eating the small baits. I went through all of my small baits on that A-rig before I replaced them all. And I did catch fish with the 4.8s as well. But the 3/8s, I've just been doing like a Tennessee shad or something more natural colored. That's what's getting eaten more often than not. And I'm picking up, I got some nice bass on them too. I got a few in the 3-pound range. I actually got some 2.5-pound spots out in the Delta. If you know where they live, you know. But the bass have been eating the A-rig pretty good too. Real lightweight heads, keeping it off the bottom. I'm fishing anywhere from probably 4 or 5 foot with them to 10 or 12.
Okay.
And that's over the weed beds too?
On the edge. I'll throw that a little bit off of the edge. The striper I keep finding setting up on drop-offs. So the spot where I was fishing, there's a sandbar, and there's a drop that has a lot of hard bottom. I don't know if it's wood or rock. It seems like a bit of both, but it kind of makes this corner, like a 90-degree corner, and they line up on that. And that's where I've been getting the striper. But anywhere that you have a little bit more depth, and also they're hanging out in open water too. If I was targeting the bass with the A-rig, I'm definitely targeting edges. But the striper, since they roam, I have fan casted just all over. Same thing with the chatterbait too. Where I've been getting my bigger bass has been on big flats, where the flats slowly taper out into that 5 to 8 foot of water. So I'm in the middle of the river, and I've had guys watching me. They're up flipping the bank and fishing the shoreline and stuff, and I'm out in the middle. And I had some guy yelling, he's like, "How the hell are you doing that?" He saw me catch a 4-pounder and 6-pounder back to back. But they're definitely, with the dirty water, generally that should push them shallow. It should push them on hard cover, and I'll get a few doing that. But for whatever reason, even with the darker water, I'm finding them out in the middle of the river on those clumps more consistently as far as size goes.
In that 5 range.
Yeah, I'd say 5 to 8, something around there. But as shallow as, I mean, I've gotten some fish in like 2 feet of water in the Delta. Those ones are generally on wood though. But my bigger bites are definitely coming off the grass lines. Like if you've got a hard grass line and it's a spot you fish and you know generally there's grass out here, I'll just take it off the line at like, start doing increments of angles. And as long as I'm still touching grass, I'm confident that I'll get a fish. But I'm also not getting a lot of bites. That day that I had my 18-pound bag last week, I got 7 bites. I caught 6 fish, and they're just good ones. So I'm not getting a lot of bites. They're just the right ones. I think if you're fishing the shoreline, and I could be wrong, that at least in my experience recently, they've been the smaller fish. But I also can't fish it as efficiently. That chatterbait doesn't do as well in the wood. That 3/8 ones does a lot better. And with that Z-Craw, it's flat on the bottom, so it'll ride over a little bit better, but you're still getting snagged. And then my problem is I want to pick up my flipping stick and start, testing all the holes and putting them everywhere, and I fish too slow that way. And I just don't think there's enough fish to keep me in there. So going on those big flats or where I know there's grass, I can cast and cover water quickly and just go till I get a bite. And if I pick up a few bites in one spot, then I'll pick up Texas rig Senko or something like that and start fishing it slower. But I like to cover water. I'm an impatient fisherman, but I said you fish it slow fast.
Are you finding a tide you like better?
No, I'm kind of going out on all tides. It seems it's. I think I like the higher tide better because I do think those fish will move up into the denser grass where I can fish that chatterbait, where I'm stroking it through stuff a little bit better. Once the tide goes out and you have those sparser clumps, you're going through a lot of open water where you're just reeling in the abyss and you're not touching anything. So you're still searching for those clumps. There's just not as many. And I think the fish will slide into the thicker stuff and out of the thicker stuff with the tide. But I think the high tide, you have a better opportunity to generate that reaction just because on that lower tide, you're fishing a lot fewer clumps.
I got you. Do you like the high outgoing kind of at the peak where it's starting to come out seems to be like a better window, or is it like, right before it hits high tide to that magic time, the high outgoing or whatever?
It hasn't seemed to matter as long as the water's moving and you're fishing in the grass. I do like a little bit of dirty water, especially using that stark white, which even my spinner baits have been stark white. It's just been, as long as the water's moving, it's just, you kind of have to follow them or think about what, like the flat that I'm fishing, it's probably got on top of it on a low tide, you can see the grass. It's about that far under the water, but on a high tide, you've got, a foot, 2 foot over the top of it. And I really think they slide up to sun themselves. And like I said, because there's more grass, I can constantly be working that bait where it's going brr, 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 and I think I get more bites that way. But on that lower tide, I think I'm getting better fish on the lower tide. But okay. It's just, like I said, it's winter right now, so it's you're not getting a lot of bites. So go to a place where you have confidence and fish those spots where you could generate that reaction bite. I really think a jerkbait would do well, except I just keep catching clumps of grass. It's not clear enough to where I can see and target edges of clumps, so I'm just doing stuff that I can fish through the grass. And they haven't even a swim jig either, for whatever reason, because I thought that would be another way to tempt them when they're not biting something that has the flash and vibration, but they haven't touched it. The lipless is what I ended up going to when they were eating the chatterbait, and that's more obnoxious, and they're eating that as well. But they're the ones that I've caught on that. They've all been hooked like just barely in the lip, where when that lipless bite is really good, they'll slackline you and you got to catch up to them and pull into them and it's down their throat. And it hasn't been that yet. I think some more warm weather, has the flash and vibration. Another week or two of the warm weather, I'll start fishing that red color, especially in the Delta. And I think that'll really turn on soon, 2-3 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you finding like dead end sloughs? Are you finding is it main river channel? Is it a little bit of both? Does it matter?
It doesn't seem to matter. I've been getting them on the main river as well as dead end sloughs. It's just you got to find the edge. I mean, that would be the biggest thing that I'd say. Like I said, I prefer the chatterbait because the spinnerbait, there's still some of that like witch's hair and snotty grass, and it'll get in the blades and it'll get on your bait, and it just doesn't do that so much with the chatterbait. But the biggest thing is the edge and grass. Like I said, if you could find grass and wood, there's a couple spots where I have trees that are going out towards the center of the river. If you don't snag them, it's a great place to catch fish because they'll have grass piles around there, and they've been on that pretty well too. But like I said, my bigger fish, if there's wood 15, 20 feet away and there's grass clumps out from that and there's no wood out there, that's where my bigger fish are. Because I think they slide up to that wood when the sun's warm and on a higher tide. And I think they pull off into those clumps once it starts getting lower. Do you want to see the baits at all? I can show you what I've been working with here, sitting out in the with all my junk.
What's the water temp you got?
No idea. I haven't run a fish finder in over a year on my kayak. Cold. Give it the old finger test. I haven't run a fish finder. I've been going out. I'm in a 10-foot kayak. I don't even have a chair in mine. I'm just sitting on a butt pad. I try to bring only 4 rods out. I'm just trying to travel light and fast and get into some of these places because I'm doing levee launches and stuff that, I hope boats get to, but less kayakers out there. But so that guy is what I've been caught my 6-pounder on recently. I think it was a 613, but I think this one is a 3/8, and I got a curly. All I do for a spinnerbait trailer is a curly tail grub. That's for whatever reason. That's all I ever throw. Silver blades and just slow rolling it. All the spinners are slow rolled. I've got some on some brighter colors when the water's dirtier, like chartreuse, white, blue. I've got some with painted blades that I've got them on. But like I said, that white's hard to beat. I've just been doing so well with it this last year, whether it's cold or hot, regardless. And then the other one that I've been throwing, the Box of Wonders, the jig box. But that guy is the 3/8 jackhammer, and that is the Z-Man trailer on it. And like I said, I absolutely love these things. It's got kicking legs, kind of like I would equate it to a Rage Menace, but because this is flatter, it'll come over the wood better, where the Menace is round, so it'll roll and that hook point will get in the wood. The flat really helps you. If you're fishing a lot around wood, the 3/8 is better. There's times, like if they're in a foot of water and there's laydowns, I'll fish it kind of like a square bill. And I like the white because in that shallow of water, all I see is the white disappear and I set the hook. But yeah, that in the 3/8 and a half. Ow. I haven't been doing as good on it, but I also do the get out of there. The swim jig, just a white swim jig with that one is the Menace. But that's my other go-to. If they're not eating the chatterbait or if it's a little bit clearer, I'll go to this. But for whatever reason recently, they haven't touched it. They like that chatterbait, they like the spinnerbait.
Nice. You've been targeting any other species, or you've been predominantly bass and striper since you've been down here?
Since I've been down here, just bass and striper. I've caught a handful of crappie. If you're out and you're in clear water, you throw a 2.8 or something like that. I've been getting some nice crappie out of a couple places, but not a lot of them. I'll pick up 1 or 2. I'll catch one and think, oh, there's a school, and then I'll catch 1 or 2, and then either they move, and again, I don't have a fish finder. I can't keep tabs on them. But I'll get those. I did pick up a 6-pound striper on a BFS rod with a 2.8. That was fun. That thing had that thing bent over. It was the first fish I caught on it too, so it was good. The other thing that I would say, I have spent a good deal of time trying to find a good chatterbait rod, and I've gone through a bunch. I've thrown them on kind of crankbait rods, and I've thrown them on just your basic medium, heavy, fast. But I finally found a rod that I really, really, really like. It's the Daiwa Tatula, just the regular one. It's their 7.4 glass. It's a spinnerbait, chatterbait rod. I don't like the spinnerbait on it, but the chatterbait, it's the best rod that I've used. It's a heavy actually, and it's got what I was told. It's a carbon fiber blank, and then just the tip is fiberglass, and it loads up great. You could manhandle the fish. I'm throwing it on 17-pound fluoro, and when you get a hook in them, you can just drag them, even those bigger ones. It's awesome. It's by far my favorite chatterbait rod that I've ever picked up. I've had more expensive ones. I got the Tatula Elite, and that one's a full glass. It's a bit softer. I didn't like it. I'd have to snap too hard to get it out of the grass, and they have a 7-foot, which is the one that I had. It had a short handle. I hate short handles. They've also got a 7.4 if you like the glass rod. It's something to look into. It's the Brent Eiler one, but I really like that cheaper one. I got it on sale for $100 at Fisherman's Warehouse, and I caught almost all of my big fish last year on it. It's phenomenal. Got nothing but good thing to say about it, and it's a very moderately priced rod. It's $150 when it's not on sale.
Nice. You been anywhere else? I think you said you made a couple trips up to Amador.
Yeah, I fished Amador a bit. So I get out with a few buddies every now and then, but Amador and Pardee are the two that I've fished this year most. And then I got out with you on Clear Lake last weekend, which was awesome. I did some learning that day. But over at those places, Amador, we did well, and it was small topwaters, little 4-inch walking baits, and jigs. You know, if I'm at a lake, I've got a jig tied on, and that's what I generally do a lot of damage with. But I don't vary too much. Like in the Delta, I feel like I can fish everything that I like to fish. In a lake, I'm just not super confident. I learned a lot when I was in Redding, but without a fish finder, I'm targeting the very obvious, whether that be points, rock veins, things like that, something that's perfect for a jig. And I kind of go back and forth between the hula grub and a standard football jig. And a lot of times I'll just throw that hula grub on a shaky head because I could change it from a worm to a hula grub and back and forth depending on what I feel they're eating. I did a lot more this year with the 4-inch hula grub than the 5. That's usually been my go-to, but downsizing, I've caught a lot of good fish doing that 4-inch one. Even in the Delta, if you find clear water in the Delta and you have wood, I'll throw a 4-inch hula grub on like a 3/16 shaky head, and I'll crush them with that. And if they stop.
You played with the 2.5s yet?
I haven't. Is it from Yamamoto as well, or?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen them. No, I know.
Yeah.
I know Kitech makes like a 3-inch spider grub too.
Yeah.
It's a 2.5-inch hula grub.
2.5-inch hula grub.
You throw it on a Ned head or something?
No, so I threw them on the
Little
Kitech
ball head.
football heads,
Mm-hmm.
but the bait keeper is almost too big for the bait.
Okay.
If you don't have it threaded in perfect, it kind of it'll and even after one fish, those big bait keepers on those hooks, the top of the bait blows up. So I did go buy some of the Great Lake Finesse football heads.
Okay.
It's a much smaller bait keeper, and it's I mean, so you're not gonna throw it in wood. Obviously, it's a exposed hook, but
yeah,
it's a lot better setup for those.
I did find. What size hook is that in those heads?
2-aught, I believe.
So there's one that Hayabusa makes a football head. That's a finesse one, and it's got a 2-aught in it with a good weed guard. That's what I've been throwing out on in the Delta with some of those small baits, and it only goes like halfway down those 4-inch hula grubs, so it might be perfect for that.
Yeah, I'll have to check those out.
Yeah. Wobble head would be a good thing to throw it with too.
If you get one with a hook.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. The only other thing.
No, go ahead.
The only other thing that I did a lot this year, again, Delta-wise, was punching. When I lived down here before, I didn't do a lot of it just because I didn't have the setup. But this year I played a lot more with punching and did get to learn. So those same grass clumps that I'm using the chatterbait in, I was punching those because before I was just targeting like floating vegetation. And this year I got a little bit better at targeting like the clumps that have a few feet of water on top of them. And they're just, a big thing of hyacinth and punching through those. And the only thing that I could figure out with that, because it wasn't consistent, was the depth. You had to find the right depth for that. But the punching this year was decent as well.
Nice. Yeah, so Matt and I shot up to Clear Lake on Saturday. And boy, the fishing was tough. It was brutal. Like I was the point to where I was like, all right, there's one more spot. I missed a good one. Matt had a decent, almost 4-pounder in the boat and a couple little 1-pounders, and I was ready to hang the towel in. I caught, one dink, and we ended up finding a little spot, man, and it produced. So I did catch my PB this weekend at 713 up there, so I was pretty stoked. Matt was around to see that.
What's up, Abel?
And we put together a 22-pound bag. It's tough, guys. It is super tough. And if you can find it, it's all jig head minnow, and it was painful to sit there and stare at that screen all day long, but it's what we had to do to get bit, and it works.
Yeah, I learned a lot from watching him. I thought a 1/8 ounce jig head was very light until he changed my mind.
Yes.
Yeah, we were watching it fall on the live imaging, and again, I thought it was a light jig head, and the way that mine would fall with that jigging minnow, I couldn't keep it up over the fish. Every time that I'd stop it for a second, it would start to dive. And so my eyes were opened to that jigging minnow, because I've done it a little bit with another friend of mine without much success. But, man, I could see how effective it is when you find the right spot with the right fish and can just literally, I mean, the way James was doing it, it stayed right over the top of their head, where when I tried it, it would just drop and they would spook off.
Yeah, guys, don't be afraid to play with your weights on those things. That's all I gotta say. It takes some practice to figure it out, but just don't be afraid to don't be afraid.
I thought we were going to get some February topwater fish when we started.
Oh my god, dude, that was insane.
Yeah,
they weren't just little splashes either. There were some big fish busting.
Yeah. I can only imagine that those fish hit the top and were right back down to the bottom immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were hitting the top enough to where I had one topwater in my box of hard baits. I tied that on and started walking it. He's like, "Are you throwing a topwater? You even brought one?"
Yeah, it's 49-degree water temp. He's over there walking a walking bait. I was praying that someone would hit it.
I
was so cool.
I was confident. There was enough fish at the top of the water that I was like, "It's gonna happen." The only thing that I almost caught with it was seagulls. There was a lot of birds up there pushing bait too, and they kept wanting to drop on my walking bait.
Oh yeah.
The bait right now is so thick, you guys. Like I've seen it to where where your 2D your ground and water depth will change in the 2D, and it'll show like 5 feet of water, and it's just all bait under your boat. It was so thick you could not see through it at all with the forward facing. You couldn't see the ground, you couldn't see the fish in it. It just turned my screen black. It was so thick. It was crazy.
So I was throwing an exposed hook drop shot, and I was reeling into recast, and I actually snagged bait a couple of times. And what I thought was interesting, the first one that I snagged was probably about 2 inches. The second one was quite a bit larger, like a 4-inch, with real deep bodied. So I think you could get away with a lot of different baits up there right now. Just to, when you match the hatch, I mean, they were drastic size, and those were all shad, not to mention all the other bait fish that live in there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The threadfin right now, that's what it looked like it was. It is insane how much is in that lake right now.
Is there different species of shad in Clear Lake? Just threadfin.
Okay.
Yes.
There are?
Yes.
What is in there?
So threadfin, And then the real small one, that's the
Silver sides.
silver side, thank you. And
Okay.
then obviously all the little bluegill and crappie, those
And
would be
itch.
considered, yeah. Those would be
Yeah.
considered fish.
Shane had to go do his son's got a big basketball game, so we'll catch Shane next week. Good luck, Connor.
Later, Shane. They have hitch, which is the bigger size stuff.
I think they got hardhead minnows in there too, and the carp and the baby catfish. And that thing's just so
Baby
much
catfish.
bait.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have that one bait looks like the dark horse bait. It's anyways, it looks like a little catfish about
Oh, I know which ones you're talking about. Are
3
you
inches
talking
long.
like blue eyes?
No,
There's a little bait called a baby blue eyes. It's a little catfish bait.
yeah, it's yeah. There are actually so many different baits, bait fish in Clear Lake. It's pretty impressive.
I know they
Especially
have.
the different sizes they have. They have
Mhm.
silver side, which is, pencil thick, and they could be, an inch and a half long. Then the thread fin could be inch and a half wide
Mhm.
and, 4 inches long. And then they have the hitch, which basically looks like a huge,
Kind of
looks
like snowy.
yeah, a big old fish. So
They had
and
some.
they have
I know
gobies.
there's another bait fish up there. It's like about the same size as a hitch. For the life of me, I cannot remember what it's called.
Abel said the blackfish. I know there's probably Sacramento blackfish in there as well.
Yeah.
Do they have gobies or sculpins or anything like that in there too?
Yeah, I think every lake's got that.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
food. That's why they're so big. I mean, the one that James caught, that 7-pounder, had a gut and some big old bug eyes on it. It was stuffed.
Yeah. Oh, it was for sure.
And then there's other guys out there with big stringers full of crappie. So they were on the deeper side of the bait, just slaughtering those.
Yeah, crappie. I mean, I saw a ton in the first spot we stopped at in the morning. The crappie were schooled up like crazy.
And they all look decent size. I mean, they look like 14 inches or so.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys want to get your crappie fill in,
Yeah.
you'll see the hot crappie spots because you'll have about
40 boats on it.
15 boats, if not more, all grouped up in one area, and they're all fishing crappie. It was crazy. I mean, they were in line. They might as well have been tied off to each other. Had one guy spot locked. They were so close to each other.
Yeah, I did get that.
They're all throwing bait fish, the little minnows, minnows.
That could have been. I don't know what they're throwing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost one big catfish while we were there on an underspin, probably 8 to 10 pounds. I only saw it for a second, but that was a fun fight on a medium rod.
Like, yeah, those big cats are fun to catch unless you're in the middle of a tournament. You're like, oh god, here we go.
I got a giant.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had one smoke a spinnerbait right under the kayak one year. I couldn't believe it, dude. I mean, it was right under the bow, and it just all I saw was a flash. I'm like, oh, I think it's you. I'm like, oh, it's catfish.
So I know Bam told me a long time ago they had a day where the shad spawn was ridiculous in Clear Lake, and I believe he caught something like a 17-pound carp in the mouth on a chatterbait.
That's crazy. Only Bam.
Right? It was him and his buddy, but they caught a big carp on a moving bait, and I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, only Bam would do that.
And my buddy caught a nice catfish on topwater bait, walking bait.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's the first.
Yeah.
First.
It was crazy. I was up there one year cutting across the lake, and it was one of those stupid mayfly hatches, and they were everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Those catfish will sit out in the middle of the lake, and you just see something sitting up out of the water with their mouth open, and there'd be like 4 or 5 catfish out there just waiting for the wind to blow the mayflies into their mouth. It was crazy.
That's cool. I didn't know they did that.
Neither did I until I saw it. Yeah, if you guys have any questions for what Matt's doing on the Delta or anything, drop a comment. We'll get your questions answered by Matt. He's the winter Delta stud right now, apparently.
I'm getting lucky. I only fish a handful of spots, but I know them like the back of my hand. That's the only reason I can say I'm doing any good. It's because it's like this is where all the fish were. Where do they move to? And you just follow them from there.
Like, yeah.
Are you
But
catching a whole bunch of stripers, big stripers, or just occasional one while you're bass fishing?
right now they're just kind of occasional. I've got one spot where I'm confident I can go catch 2 or 3, but there's not big schools. I did see a giant school pushing bait in like a foot or two of water so much that they turned it into chocolate milk, and I couldn't catch one of those. I think they were small, but it was crazy.
You're doing tournaments this year, Matt?
No, not probably not. I've got, like I said, I'm in a little 10-foot kayak, no motor, no fish finder. I'm not going to go in undergunned with all you guys with your 2 motors and your live imaging. You know what? If there was a Delta tournament, I'd consider it. If I'm still down here, I'm hoping that it won't be too much longer till I'm back up in Reading. But the Delta would be the only place I feel like I have a chance of doing any good against all you guys. Any lake, you guys will school me.
What are you hauling when you truck?
So at first I was doing agriculture and I was doing fertilizer. So we were doing aqua ammonium, and it's some nasty stuff. But we'd go to the facilities and fill up our tanks, and then go out to the fields and fill up their tanks. That was sketchy. There's some very, very small dirt roads and a lot of ditches and a lot of rice fields that you didn't want to sink in. And then the last thing I was doing was delivery driving. We were stocking like mostly gas stations and mom and pop shops and things like that. But I'm looking to get into a position in Reading. If anybody's got any connections, I had an interview a couple weeks ago, so I went up and I fished Shasta, and I got to fish Trinity. So I guess that was something else that I did. We went and fished Trinity. We were fly fishing, and I got 2 real nice steelhead that were probably in the 26, 27 inch range. And on a fly rod and on a hook about that big, it was a blast.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and then Shasta, we did all right. Jig bite and Ned rig, but when we were out, it was pretty windy too, so it was tough to keep on the spot. And I was using a friend's kayak while I was up there, so I had pedals, which was a lifesaver. But yeah, what do you guys think about the water lately?
Weather.
The water in the
Weather.
Delta.
He meant weather. He corrected himself.
Sorry. I don't know. I'll tell you at the end of the week, maybe. With it cool enough. Like I said, we went out today, and me and my dad caught about a dozen fish. 2 nice striper, about an 8-pounder and a 6-pounder, and 3 of our largemouth were about 3 pounds. And I saw one that was 5 or so, but it was one of those ones. The water had cleared up drastically, and I stood up to kind of survey everything, and there was like a 5-pounder sitting there in about 4 feet of water, and it had the sun on it, and it was that real light shiny color, and it was glowing. And obviously I was right next to it. I tried throwing a few things on its head, but it didn't want any of what I was throwing.
Yeah.
And I
don't know what's
called
going to happen.
That's called live scoping, but you stand up and do it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get out one more time this week to 1 or 2 of my spots. So stay tuned for pictures. But I think that they have to eat, and you just need to fish things real slow. Even if you're fishing that reaction bait and get bit, if you get bit, throw something slower in the same spot, and hopefully you can pick them up. But that spinnerbait's money right now too. It's like I don't know what you can fish slower than a spinnerbait that you can still generate that reaction bite with.
Yeah.
I think this February might be a phenomenal month because we really haven't had a lot of rain. It's already kind of going, it's frosty here in the morning, but it heats up to 60 something. So,
I was looking at
February
the
when that frost is gone.
extended forecast, and it's showing some rain in February, but I'm curious to see what's going to happen. We need it. We definitely don't need to hit another drought again, but
no, I think the fishing will still be good even with this colder weather, because I think that a lot of these fish are like in the very early stages of thinking pre-spawn, because a lot of them are up in fat, and a lot of them are having those red lips from eating crawdads. So I think that it's going to happen earlier this year with the weather we've been having. So I still think they got to eat and just make it easy for them.
Yeah, it should be good February.
Oh, February is going to be phenomenal. I was telling James, my best lipless bite has always been in February, and it's been insane. You can't fish it fast enough, and it's down their throat every time. And it's just, you find a good, again, you kind of grass flats that they start staging up on, and you just destroy them.
It's cold to the touch, Abel.
Yeah. I don't have a fish finder. I do the finger test. So it's cold. When it drips on you, you're like, whoo.
Yeah. No kidding.
But I think it's going to be good. I think if you know where fish are, fish something slow, fish something plastic. If you're looking for fish, fish the slowest reaction bait you can. But you should still get bit. The size is out there. Fish are out there. And if you don't catch a bass, you'll catch a striper. Hopefully.
Yeah, so, oh, yeah. Hopefully you don't go home with nothing. No skunk would be good.
I remember
Right
back
on.
in the day,
What's that?
back in the day, our electronics didn't have water temperature. So you actually, the pool water temperature
Yeah.
gauges, you'd have one of those in your boat and tie it to a fishing rod. You could drop it down and reel it in real quick and look and see, okay, it's this, But then they went from that to this Lowrance in-dash hooked on the back of the boat. But now, it's quite a bit different, but it's still surface temp.
Yeah.
But back in the day, we actually tied it to a fishing rod. You can find a thermocline. You can find out that in the wintertime, it was 47 on the top and 47 on the bottom and 50 feet. So, yeah.
I do have one buddy who's been setting out minnow traps, and he's been catching minnows and floating those with a bobber or dropping them to the bottom with like a three-way swivel, and he's been picking up some decent fish too. So if you have, the money to buy a cheap minnow trap and a place to put it, that's also another good option for this time of year. What doesn't need a minnow?
That's true.
Right.
Right on. Well, guys, thank you, Matt, for jumping on tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for going out fishing with me and dealing with my shenanigans all day Saturday. That was a blast.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, I learned I love going out on lakes because I suck at them, and I love kind of that light bulb clicked for me. And so even though I don't have the equipment to do it, when I do or when I'm with somebody who does, now I've got another way of thinking about that.
Heck yeah.
Hopefully, if you want to get out this weekend to do the Delta, maybe I can put you on some good fish and change your mind about a couple of things.
I know, right? That's what I'm debating. Like Delta, Folsom, Delta, Folsom.
Delta's closer to home.
It's way closer to home. Yeah, I'll get in touch with you. We'll figure it out.
I'll try not to get your boat stuck in any of these backwaters I put my kayak in.
Please don't do that.
Do me a favor. Get it stuck. Break it in right.
Oh, Jesus. I don't
Start
want
throwing
to get out and
up
push it.
rooster tail.
Yeah.
Tell them right through here, go full throttle.
Yeah.
Don't set it down right there.
I went fishing with a buddy's dad's friend, older guy, and I took him into one of my spots, and we started getting out when the tide was getting low, and he freaked out a bit because we touched bottom a couple times, but I thought we were safe.
Oh, Jesus. Look what I'm managed for now.
Dude, I've watched people get stuck out on sandbars and stuff. I feel bad for them, but it also makes me giggle.
Yeah, let's not do that, Matt. That doesn't sound fun. Anyway, guys, next week we have Kevin from Bioenno coming on. So all battery questions, all things power for your little plastic boats. We're going to discuss all of that with him. And guys, thank you for watching, and we will catch you all on the next one.
Thanks.